All right, we're here at my tiny indoor worm bin, and today we're going to be checking in on a few things. One is, are there still a lot of mites and potworms in here? And then the other is, how's that tiny burlap sack doing in here from the bracelet packaging? And then I'm going to feed in a more spread out area of the bin so that things don't get matted down. And right away on the very top, I am seeing lots of mites. Let's see if we can do a time lapse and see those. Yeah, there are a lot of mites right there. I think right where that paper was and the moisture is, that's where they are congregating. So when we were in here last, we dumped a lot of paper in here and we did not feed. In fact, I came in here about 3 days after and I spread that paper around because it was really dry. And here is the burlap sack, and you can see some worms around it, and then also a little bit of mites on it, and it feels damp. It doesn't feel overly wet or anything like that. And let's see if there's anything inside. Isn't any food scraps, but I do see some mites in there, and they are just glistening. That's what helps me kind of see them. And there's a worm in there, so we'll kind of set this to the side and I'll put it back in just to kind of give us room. But let's go ahead and dig in, and here's some more of that paper. The other thing I noticed is the paper was on top of itself, so it was kind of matting down. So I'm also going to try and make sure I spread this out. But yeah, when I came in here and added more of that paper and then checked on it in a few days, it was really dry in the center where that paper was, but the bin was still continuing to get moist on its own from the humidity coming up on the lid and then dropping down into it. So I took the lid off and left it off for a few hours a day for about 3 days. And then for about the last 4 days, I just left everything alone. Now, right now, it feels pretty good. The moisture feels good to me, and you can see some worms throughout. I don't expect to find any worm balls because we didn't feed, so there's not going to be any real concentration. But certainly with the number of worms that we started with, right around 500, and this being somewhere around 60 plus days, and we should see in excess of 500 to 600 worms in here. All right, we'll keep just digging around here. And this is looking good. I mean, there's a lot of castings in here compared to the amount of paper in here. And I've been constantly adding paper. So it's not like the paper you see is the original paper. A lot of that has been broken down. So let's just kind of push this aside and move over and look at the middle and see how it's doing. I don't see any concentration of potworms so far like we did when we checked on it last time. And that makes sense because there's not any concentration of moisture or food. And I had a lot of great comments. I really appreciate all the comments. I had some of the more experienced worm farmers, encouraged me and said, not to worry about it too much. They help break down the food and food scraps. I had some others that said, hey, drying it out will help out with the population, and that was kind of my idea of thinking too, was if I let this dry out a little bit and don't feed it, that will help. And then others said, overfeeding and feeding a lot of slow to eat foods or slow foods and fruits in particular will help increase those populations, and if you don't want them, then maybe stop that action. So that's probably what I'm going to do. Now I do see mites. I'm noticing them more. I don't know if the light is just right for me to see them, but I am noticing mites more. So I'm not too worried. There is no massive infestation. I don't see worms just coated in mites or anything that would have me too worried. And really the only reason that I got a little surprised last time was, going from not seeing any potworms or just a few potworms to a bunch in one area like that just kind of means that maybe I've got some matted down food and bedding and maybe some fermentation is going on, and I really didn't want to have that in my worm bin, which is another reason why I like to aerate the bin, which is kind of what I'm doing here, is just make sure there's no pockets of stagnation, and there is no pooling of liquid down here, so that's good. Just a little bit of glistening, so the moisture level is pretty good, which is amazing because we really dried it out. So I think what's happening is the humidity within my house, because of the fact that the weather is so good outside, I have neither AC nor heating going on in the house, that the humidity is just kind of staying inside the house. And I checked our thermostat. We've got one of those smart thermostats, and I looked back to the summer months, and it's typically around 40%, that kind of thing. And right now it's about 55 to 60%. So that's a pretty significant difference in humidity levels. So I've made kind of a long feeding zone here. And that's going to consist of a lettuce stalk, some more lettuce leaves, and 2 strawberries from my garden that we ate. This is very fast to eat food, or fast food. I realize I've been saying fast food, and hopefully people don't think I'm putting McDonald's or Burger King in here. This is just fast food because they consume it pretty quickly. And then slow foods are foods that take them longer, like apples or, bulking things I haven't shred or frozen. So we'll have that there. And then another thing somebody said was eggshells are helpful to buffer the pH. And that's kind of what I figured. But then I had another commenter that said that eggshells may encourage them. So I'm just going to put just a little bit and see if that helps with any kind of our critters. And I think the eggshells, they were particularly talking about the potworms. So that's going to be our feeding. I'm going to add just a little bit of bedding on top. And that's mostly because I can't resist adding bedding every time. It's just kind of what I like to do, is always add bedding. But this bin is probably halfway through its life cycle right here. And this makes some sense that I'm getting these, sine waves of critters in here, meaning mites and springtails and potworms, that kind of thing. And another couple weeks, then things will probably calm down, and then we'll really see the bedding getting broken down faster and that kind of thing. And by giving just this little bit of food, the worms will attack it quickly, and it just won't give the other populations a chance to increase so much. All right, this just in from the executive producer, my wife. I totally forgot to put the packaging back in. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna pull some of this stuff. I'm gonna put the strawberries back in here. That was fun. I'll put the strawberries inside this, and maybe a little piece of leaf inside the packaging, and I'll put that down there. And then this other packaging, I'm just gonna rip up and put one there, maybe one here, and not let it mat down together. So as usual, my wife / executive producer for the save. Okay, now we're ready to bury it back up. And if you like this video, go ahead and hit the like button. I appreciate it. And subscribe if you want to get notified. Ring the bell. And I've got a couple other bins, an outside worm bin and a Vermi Hut indoor worm bin tower, which are really fun to use. And then I guess I've got a cocoon nursery that I snuck in. So maybe that's 4 worm bins there, but we'll get a check on those later in the week. So I just want to say thanks to everybody that left a comment. I really appreciate those, and I learned so much from them. I know I learn a lot from doing, and that's the kind of the theme of the channel, but learning from other people is a great way to gain experience and then, maybe try for yourself. So really, I just got to say thank you so much for everybody that's taken the time to leave a comment and watch the videos. That is so much appreciated. So let's add the newspaper back on top. And we're definitely not going to add any moisture, certainly not to this bin, and we'll see how it does. We'll see. I'll keep monitoring it, and I'll check the upper side of the lid, and if it keeps gaining moisture again, I'll take it off for a couple days. But I think I've moderated the moisture inside here to the level that I wanted, so things are going good there, and we'll just keep checking on it. So I hope everybody's having a great day, and happy vermicomposting, everybody. Take care now.